I'm live, but I got to find those little thingamabiggies on there to get the. Hold on, hold on. Be patient, folks. Like somebody's waiting for me. Anyway, uh, I'm moving slow here this morning with the new messages. Create new group options. Oops, I'm looking for the little squares. There we go. It's right where they are. Oh boy, there we go. I recognize me. This is Brian McIntyre, man living in long-term recovery because of a 12-step program called Alcoholics Anonymous, and it's April the 6th. Where is this pandemic time going here? I was just remarking as I continue my journey that I'm becoming a pandemic academic here because I'm learning so much. I'm being forced to learn things that I just said, oh, let somebody else do that. Well, now I'm the somebody else that's got to do that. Go figure. I was looking at the daily reflection reading this morning, and it really is quite powerful. A lifetime process. When I used to hear the word process around the tables of Alcoholics Anonymous, I thought I resisted that word because when it talked about process, all I could think of was a can of Spam coming down the production line, and I didn't want to be so identical as every single other or every other can of Spam because I thought I was so different. I was so special. Well, here's the reading for today. We were having trouble with personal relationships. We couldn't control our emotional natures. We were a prey to misery and depression. We couldn't make a living. We had a feeling of uselessness. We're full of fear. We were unhappy. We couldn't seem to be of real help to other people. That's on page 52 of Alcoholics Anonymous. And if you don't know what that book looks like, it is right here. Okay. Well, and if you want to hide money from an alcoholic, put it in his big book. He will not find it unless he's active in his program. Now, as we move forward, and another word that I heard recently when I had complaints with credit card companies and stuff, and I pushed it as far as I could, I would hear this moving forward, Mr. McIntyre. So we're going to move forward here to the rest of that as soon as I can figure out what I'm flipping around with on my iPhone, and so oh, there we go, popped up. I think I knew what I was doing here. These words remind me that I have more problems than alcohol, that alcohol is only a symptom of a more pervasive disease. When I stopped drinking, I began a lifetime process of recovery from unruly emotions, painful relationships, and unmanageable situations. This process is too much for most of us without help from a higher power and our friends in the fellowship. When I began working the steps of the AA program, many of these tangled threads unraveled, but little by little, the most broken places of my life straightened out, one day at a time, almost imperceptibly. I healed. Like a thermostat being turned down, my fears diminished. I began to experience moments of contentment. My emotions became less volatile. I am now once again a part of the human family. Wow, I like to belong. Most of us do, I think. But I'm bringing you some other information. I downloaded on I'm a resource guy. You can give me a call at 815-220-0299. And from the Illinois Department of Human Services, which they offer a tremendous amount of information, you just have to know how to dig it out. And they sent me a bulletin that I downloaded. And if you need more information on this, pay attention to my number and give me a call, 815-220-0299. There's digital recovery support groups in all types of areas there. I got I got 5 pages of it, too much to speak to at this particular point of my sharing. But there's meeting rooms, there's Refuge Recovery, Never Alone Club, gambling therapy support forums. There's Alcoholics Anonymous online intergroup, Chicagoland Gamblers Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous. You know, when I first tried to get cleaned up, Alcoholics Anonymous was a very discriminating organization in my viewpoint, because if I went into I was living in Worcester, Massachusetts, and I had experienced the experience of being King Baby, and I went to my very first AA meeting that I wanted to go to at Doctor's Hospital, and I went in there, and it was 10 o'clock in the morning, and I just come back from a visit to my wife and children in Illinois, and I was back in Massachusetts, and the lady that I was involved with was in Massachusetts, and I asked her to look at this article called King Baby in the Grapevine, and it took her about 3 minutes to read it, and she said, "Yeah, that's you," because I was King Baby for sure, and I was mortified. And the only place I knew I could go was an AA meeting. I walked into that meeting, and man, I was in tears by the time it was 10 minutes in the meeting. So I wanted to continue going to meetings, and I looked for other spots. And I went to a church several weeks later on a Sunday night at 7 o'clock, and I talked about my issues with alcohol. But I don't really want to drink. But boy, that cocaine has got me just got me. And the chairperson of the meeting said, "Well, this is not the place for you. We're about alcohol." And I didn't realize how wrong he was, but what I did realize was that I was feeling rejection. Now, we're fortunate today because we're in a 12-step environment here in the greater LaSalle County area, where those of us that have been rocking and socking for a few years, we identify with those other derelictions that have taken us to the pits of hell. And so here in this community of recovery, we welcome folks of any abuse issue, and we try not to make them feel less than, because I know already how less than that I was feeling, and when I was at the church, I won't name it because it's not important, but it gave me a good reason to say screw any 12-step program for a long time. And now one of the values that I've kind of gotten out of all that, though, is I can couple that with information that I've received over the years, that as I sit in a meeting, I have to look for the similarities and not for the differences. And that goes back to that value judging and comparing, and that total unconditional acceptance and the total unconditional love that I've learned to exercise in a 12-step program. So as being an academic guy that I always thought I was a slow learner, well, I just learn differently, and that doesn't make it slow necessarily. But if I don't know, I have the courage to say, I don't get it yet. I just don't get it. And if I find people that are patient with me, then eventually I might get it. There was something that I was fiddling around with. I was watching 60 Minutes last night, and there was a section on virtual Holocaust survivors. And I don't know if anybody's ever been to a Holocaust museum. If you're in the Chicago area, there's one up on the near north or the north side. I'm not sure if it's Morton Grove or Skokie, but it is really, 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 that the Holocaust was real. I went there, maybe 6 years ago with a friend of mine, Dave, that is Jewish, and another friend of mine, Marty, and Marty is Jewish. I've known Marty since 1981. We were on an airplane going to the Bahamas on the coldest day on record. And well, I got a lot of stories about that trip. I was in the Bahamas and I was looking for something to change my moods and something that of a brown nature that could be lit up. And I went down to the pier and a Bahamian native said he had some good stuff, and I bought it. And it turned out to be oregano. But I don't know if I can identify with that or not. But that's part of my street credibility. But anyway, going back to the Holocaust survivors, what they've done is when I say they, some producers that came off of Schindler's List. A gal worked on Schindler's List, a movie that Steven Spielberg put together, and they have recordings of people that survived the Holocaust that you can go in and sit, and there's a big screen, and you can ask them questions, and because of the virtual reality IT stuff, they'll answer you. And it is just so powerful. But there was one guy, and he was about 93 or 94 years old. He's been deceased for 2 years. And they asked him the question because he was the lone survivor in his family. And they asked him if he was angry with God. And he said, "Oh, no, I'm not angry with God. Not at all. He said, if anything, I respect and love God more than ever." He said, "But what happens is God is given people free will, and we exercise free will. And those decisions made by other people was their free will. It wasn't God's." And that ties right into what we talk about in a 12-step program, and especially when we work the steps. And as you do any reading, we talk about self-will run riot. And I had a hard time understanding that one for a long time. So, but that is what I've been feeling lately. I'm going to get a tutoring on one of two different software programs. Oh, by the way, for anybody that's doing Zoom right now, and you're hearing a lot of negative stuff about Zoom, the chief executive officer of Zoom got on television and apologized. Can you imagine this? She apologized for her services not being totally attentive to some of the HIPAA laws that are going on. Now, how many chief executives ever admit when they're wrong? Because for those of us that have lived a few years, we always know that the crap rolls downhill. And so this woman got up and she just put it out there, and she's fixing it. So now with Zoom, there are certain passwords that you have to have, and they got something called the waiting room. And so this is what I'm learning. So as a pandemic academic. So I'm going to wind it up for now because I've got a few things that I need to do, and I will try to get back to you this afternoon sometime. Thanks for listening.
Wow. You made use of that material right away.